I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking all about the beginner's guide to going non-toxic. And so this can be overwhelming as you're on the fertility journey, and you may know that plastics, your personal care, your cleaning products, the air we breathe, the water we're drinking, all of this can impact your delicate endocrine system. And so as that is harmful for your fertility, we may feel overwhelmed or may not even know where to start. So we're breaking down the top tips, what you need to know right now so you can go non-toxic and limit your exposure and help improve the chances of pregnancy success. Let's go. Hey, Anna, excited to have you back on the podcast.
Hi, Sarah. I'm so excited to be here again.
Awesome. So we're going to be digging into all things non-toxic today. Anna's blog has got some amazing resources for that. So this is something where we have our couple start as well. And it's not about throwing it all in the garbage. As each one expires, you can then replace it with a non-toxic option. Because I've seen people just lose their minds with this thing and run through the whole house panicking, which then that's the exact opposite what you need to work on your stress. So it is, mindfully as each one expires to replace it. Some things you probably want to do. We have people move quite quickly on their feminine hygiene. So the pads and tampons, the rest of it is you want to do it with some sort of a little bit more mindful. So I guess let's talk about share your story about how, and first of all, make sure you check out the episode that Anna and I did. We've done 2 other episodes together, sort of more about her story and how she was able to get pregnant naturally, both her kids, after being told that, there was no hope. Definitely check that one out. That was like one of the beginning episodes we did. And then we just did a recent one on fertility smoothies and what to look for there. So definitely check those out. So let's talk about your story of how you went non-toxic.
Thanks, Sarah. So I was struggling with infertility and recurrent miscarriage. I had a whole host of infertility diagnoses. And I was trying to sort of figure out, okay, like, what can I do? Like, I was trying to do the research on the diet, on the supplements. And then it was like the first publication of It Starts with the Egg by Rebecca Fett. And I read it. It came like at just the right month it got published. And there was a whole chapter on phthalates and BPA and egg health. And then she mentioned how like increased exposure to BPA and phthalates, which we'll talk about more, decreased egg health. And then she sort of mentioned a few other things. Well, this like opened up a giant rabbit hole for me. And I started researching like crazy, figuring out, and it was pretty narrow to start. I was really just looking at toxins that affected egg quality. Then I sort of expanded it to toxins that increased your risk of miscarriage or lowered your risk of a successful pregnancy. And then, once you sort of live in that place. So I was like, so we spent 2 months, 3 months, we completely overhauled everything. We got everything non-toxic. I overhauled my diet. I overhauled my mind body work, my supplements, everything. Worked super hard, fixed my hormones, got pregnant. And 2 years later, I did it again. One of the great things about going non-toxic is that it's for life. So like the diet, I would not do an egg health diet for more than 4 months or so, like a really intense egg health diet. And, you might not be able to meditate every day for the rest of your life, but I did when I was trying to conceive. But going non-toxic, like that's just like completely changes your life, right? Or going low toxic changes your life, and you're never going to go back to those toxic things again. It's going to be better for you, your family, your babies that are coming. It's going to keep you all healthier. And so then as I went down that road and started to look for more products, I realized that I shouldn't just be worried about egg health. I should be worried about things like cancer, and things that cause liver damage and all sorts of things. So it's been a huge passion of mine for the last, I would have started in 2013, 2014. So that's almost 10 years of just really being passionate about this, researching this obsessively. And then I've been writing about it on my blog since 2016. So
yeah, it's one thing for me. I made the diet changes, and then for some reason, like the toxic stuff, it took me a while. Like I was still using, like for years, the toxic laundry detergent. I wasn't doing those Glade plugins, but it took me a while to change all this over. I don't know why, because it's easy. It's not really that difficult, right? And then and all the all the kitchen things like that. It is just, but you have to set an intention and start making the changes. And sometimes when you're trying to figure it out, some of the things you might replace it with from a personal care standpoint might suck. Which you can spend a lot of time, because I've got like super sensitive skin. Like we all have this sensitive skin, right? Oh, the sensitive skin. But, but yeah, it is to know that the products have come a long way. And so, what advice would you give to someone who's just finding out about this link between toxins and fertility? What is it that you're going to share with them?
So I think if you're coming, like I was, if you're coming from like a conventional lifestyle where you're using conventional shampoo and conventional cleaners, and you've got like the Glade plugins and the Yankee candles and everything. I mean, I was doing all of that, right? Like if you're coming from there are some, like, you do not have to do everything I write about on my website. You do not have to do everything I've done. But there are some very basic steps that you can make that is going to drastically lower your exposure to these toxins, and is going to increase your chances of getting pregnant and just help you be healthier overall. And for a number of these, including for many of the toxins, but not all, so including phthalates and BPA, there's research showing that if all you do is replace all your personal care items, within 2 weeks, your blood levels have significantly dropped. Right? Like they've dropped into healthy ranges. So like you're less likely to have successful IVF if your phthalate level and your blood level's high. And we can extrapolate that it would be the same for natural fertility. So within 2 weeks, if you eliminate most of your phthalates and BPA, you're going to lower your blood level and increase your success rate. So, I mean, there are easy steps we can make to make a big difference, and it's 100% worth your time. It's also going to reduce your chances of all sorts of other negative health outcomes later in life.
It is interesting now because I've, all over to non-toxic. And now if I'm exposed to these, like we were looking at a house the other day, I was looking, they had the Glade plugins in there. I'm like, oh, I felt like I had a headache for like hours after inhaling all these Glade plugins.
Yeah.
Or if someone has some of those candles out now, I'm like, oh, like I'm one of these people now that it was obnoxious because I'm like, what is that smell? Oh, or you go past, Bath and Body Works and you're like, why are all those people lined out the mall to get that stuff? What are they doing?
I was in the grocery store walking with my kids down like probably the laundry detergent aisle or something. I was like, oh, it smells awful in this aisle. And my daughter's like, oh no, it smells so good. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
I even have my husband now. He was at work with one of his coworkers. He'd go into their office and he's like, are you using those bounce dryer sheets? She's like, oh, I love them. And then he went into a whole tirade about like what, exactly what.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah. And then a little while later, she's like, I got rid of them. I don't use them anymore. I'm like, see,
oh, that's amazing. Yeah, we're changing the world. Oh, I love it. Yeah. I love it. That's so great. I think I didn't want to miss the point though. So aside from the synthetic fragrances being toxic and hurting our egg health and being linked to cancer and all sorts of things, there are several people who do have sensitivities to them. So this is like on top of, or in addition to all those negative health outcomes, there are a lot of people who are sensitive to them and do get headaches or can get like major allergic reactions or like just can't breathe. And that's like a totally separate and additional awful thing about synthetic fragrances.
Yeah, part of your system there that's on high alert and it doesn't, it does not able to deal with those sort of toxins anymore. Okay, go ahead.
So let me just jump right in. So if you're listening and you're just starting out, I would say I'm going to give you two number one things to do. The first number one thing is to try to eliminate as much as possible synthetic fragrance, because synthetic fragrance has phthalates in it. And when you Google that, it actually starts with PHTH, but you say phthalates. And these are related to BPA. These are some of our worst endocrine disruptors. You've probably heard that word. Endocrine disruptors are chemicals that mimic endocrine activity and can deeply affect our reproductive system and often are linked to breast cancer also. So these are the biggest things for egg health, for avoiding miscarriage, are avoiding endocrine disruptors. And the ones that we're the most likely to be exposed to on a daily basis are phthalates and BPA. So the number one way to avoid them is to avoid synthetic fragrance. The way to do that is first you ditch everything that has synthetic fragrance, like the candles. There are essential oil ones. Those are okay. Right. Like the Glade plugins, but then also you start looking at all your products to see if there's an ingredient called parfum, PARFUM, or fragrance. And if they just say fragrance or perfume, you can pretty much guarantee that that product has phthalates in it. And every time you smell it, you inhale it, it's coming into your body. So, I mean, it's in stuff like toothpaste. I mean, we know it's in like shampoo and body wash, but the laundry detergent and the dryer sheets, the scent can really stick in your clothes. So then you're like, if it's in your sheets and your clothes, you know, when you walk into someone's house and you can smell their dryer sheets and smell their laundry detergent, you are bathing yourself in phthalates. So ditching that, I would say, is like your first priority. And then your second priority is going to be reducing your exposure to BPA and phthalates. And the other place, so the place we see BPA and the place we see the other kind of phthalates are in soft plastics. So I don't care if you are putting your shampoo in soft plastics, that's not so bad. But when you're consuming things out of soft plastics, you are like drinking in BPA or phthalates if it's BPA free. The unfortunate thing we found out is that the plastics that are BPA free still have endocrine disruptors in them. They're just not technically BPA. So the second thing that you could do, if you like stop listening to this podcast in 5 minutes, like all I want you to do to start is get rid of those synthetic fragrances and stop eating and drinking out of plastic. When at all possible. So no more plastic water bottles. Get yourself a nice stainless water bottle and refill it. No more eating or drinking off of plastic cups or plastic plates. If you need things to be non-breakable, there are nice stainless options. I'm using like a double insulated glass mug. And we do a lot of drinking. It doesn't have to be expensive. That's what I do a lot of my drinking out of mason jars. They're very affordable, all glass. And then the worst thing with plastic, I try to also not buy things in plastic from the store, but that's very hard. If you're buying, say, like grapes in plastic are not going to leach BPA too much. Like, I'm not as concerned about that. What does leach BPA is high fat foods. So dairy, meat, coconut cream, anything that's high fat is going to leach more from the material. And then heating up. So we want you to never, ever microwave anything in plastic. That is just like putting the BPA into your food. And also don't put it in the dishwasher because you don't want to heat up that plastic, which can let the chemicals come out. So what do you think, Sarah?
Yeah,
I'm
I
really
used to
passionate
for
about
years
this.
used to go to work for years and like, heating it up in the plastic. And now it's
Me
like,
too.
I've got all my little glass Tupperware. So it's
Me
like,
too. Yep.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
like,
and we really nerded out in it. We have like all this nice matching glass Pyrex with glass tops, and the mason jars you can get. The regular mason jar tops have BPA on the lining, but you can get. I think there's a brand called Eco Peaceful. Hopefully soon there'll be other brands where you can buy alternative tops for your mason jar. So there's ways to do this and still have your kitchen look cute and have things be affordable, but not be plastic.
and then what about some other ones for us to look at here? What else?
Okay, so those are my big things. And we can talk more about going through different products in your house to look for those things. But okay, so another thing is parabens. So parabens are a broad spectrum preservative. Whenever you have a water-based product, you want to have a good preservative because otherwise bacteria can develop and you can get very, very sick. This is especially important to have preservatives for pregnant women, people with lowered immune systems, babies, people going through chemotherapy. You do not want a face wash without a preservative. Unless you've made it yourself and it's 1 week and you're using it right then or whatever. So parabens are a good broad spectrum preservative. Unfortunately, they are endocrine disruptors. So this is basically any ingredient that ends in paraben, methylparaben. There's a whole bunch of them. If it ends in paraben, you don't want it. So just, scan your ingredients. The most important would be, I've seen these in supplements. And I have seen these in beverages. So the most important is making sure you're not consuming anything with a paraben in it. It's in kids' Tylenol and some other kids' medicine products. I feel like it was in a toothpaste recently that I saw. But then also you don't want it in your personal care products. You don't want it in your skincare, in your makeup, in your shampoo, in your body wash, those sorts of things. Just another endocrine disruptor is triclosan. So this is the ingredient one of the ingredients they use to make like antibacterial hand soap. So you do not want antibacterial hand soap. Regular hand soap is going to do it. Antibacterial hand soap has triclosan, which is an endocrine disruptor. So next on that. That one also shows up in toothpaste sometimes. You got to be really careful about that
That's crazy
toothpaste.
with a toothpaste, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So then I want to jump to some things that aren't necessarily endocrine disruptors, but we do know affect fertility or pregnancy success rates. So one is pesticides. So the way we avoid pesticides is pretty straightforward. There's two main ways. One is you buy organic whenever you can. That doesn't mean that there might not accidentally be some pesticides on it, but there's going to be lower pesticides and lower of the bad ones. So we buy organic whenever we can afford it. The EWG has its dirty dozen, which lists like the worst. Usually like strawberries are on there. There are certain fruits and vegetables that suck up the pesticide more. So you'd want to avoid those. The other way you can avoid pesticides is by taking your shoes off when you come in the house, which is a way you can avoid a lot of toxins. So we track it, when we walk around, we walk on grass, by the store, by wherever, we're picking up all sorts of gross things on our shoes, including pesticides. Take them off at the door. Don't track them around your house.
It's interesting that because that's an American thing, right? Like Canadians, we like take our shoes off at the front door. There's like piles of them. And then I'm like, everyone's like, we take our shoes off when we come in the house. I'm like, why wouldn't we? But yeah, it's
I know Americans don't. It's super weird. I mean, I was like about to call out someone in my family that I probably shouldn't. Anyway, there are certain people who refuse to take their shoes off. Like they will not take their shoes off. And it's very hard. But we sort of like recreated our cabinet by our side door to put our shoes away. But this is like just there's all sorts of stuff we track in, and we can reduce exposure by not. So if you're like me and you used to wear your shoes in the house, it's time to stop. Okay. So another quick sort of easy one is nail polish and nail polish remover. So traditional nail polish and nail polish remover is highly toxic. There was a big expose that the New York Times did a few years ago, at this point, probably 5 years ago, where they looked at miscarriage rates for manicurists. And it's just just insane, just awful. Like the article made you want to cry. And the chemicals that are in these things are some of the most toxic chemicals out there. So I just stopped when I was trying to conceive and pregnant. I just stopped doing my nails. There are now some nail polishes you want to look for, like 7-free or 9-free or 12-free. And I would say if you're going to get them, they usually still have a scent that's kind of gross. So do them outside, well ventilated, do your own nails. Don't go inside a nail salon where you're going to be like with all those fumes.
Yeah, because you go in those places, they're all wearing masks before people wore masks. And the ventilation and my daughter's 21 and it's the whole thing with those girls, and they do the long nails with the whole thing on it. And I'm just like, that's just like toxic waste on your fingers. But she spends $90 to $100 to get these things done. Not all the time, but enough. But yeah, so it is, sometimes people like to get their nails done, right? So there are some non-toxic ones you can get at, like your health food store. I don't know. I don't really wear it.
Yeah, I don't have a blog post on it because I don't really wear it either. But you look for the 9-free or the 12-free. And I have not found any of the direct sales nail polish companies like that your friend is doing and selling to you. I have not found any of those to be truly non-toxic, no matter what the materials say. So just to be on the safe side. And the smell that you're smelling when these are coming out are volatile organic chemicals. So those are VOCs. And we'll talk more about those in a bit, but VOCs can come from all sorts of things. Oh, including my next ingredient I want to talk about is flame retardants. So flame retardants became really big in the 80s when the government was trying to reduce the risk of fires. So people were smoking in bed and burning up their houses.
As one does.
As I know, in the 80s. And so they started putting fire retardant in children's pajamas and in mattresses. So basically since the 80s, most mattresses have had flame retardants unless they're like new and organic and, say they don't. But those emit really toxic VOCs that are linked to miscarriage and lowered fertility. So, the best thing you can do is to buy things without flame retardants when at all possible. We're talking about furniture and mattresses. These are very expensive. So these are things that took us a long time before we were able to afford an organic mattress. The other ways, but the VOCs they could come from your carpet, they could come from your paint, they could come from your shower, they could come from things you can't always control, right? And they're things that my husband and I are now starting to control, but only after like 10 years of doing this. It would be very hard to control right now if you're listening to this podcast and you've just started doing it. But there are two great things you can do to manage this. The first is open your windows. So as soon as you open your windows, you get The VOCs are lower in your air quality. You open your windows, you've improved your air quality dramatically, right? So if you can sleep with your windows open, if you can open, whenever you can open your windows, open your windows. That is not an option for me for like 6 months of the year because my husband has horrific allergies.
Oh no.
And we live in Virginia where the allergy season goes, it just keeps going and on and on and on. So we invested in a very high quality air filter. And so an air filter that both takes care of the pollen, all the allergens, and takes care of the VOCs. So, like right now, our mattresses are all non-toxic. He repainted with low VOC or zero VOC paint. But we still have, our couches are still old toxic polyurethane foam. We haven't been able to replace those yet because non-toxic couches cost like $7,000 and are really ugly. So, so we just put our air filters next to them.
And what's your favorite air filter?
My favorite air filter is the IntelliPure. That's the one that we bought and that we love. Since that's come out, though, I've read about the Air Doctor, and the Air Doctor is fabulous. So I have a blog post that ranks like my top 3 air filters, Air Doctor, IntelliPure, and I have totally forgotten the other one. I'll have to look it up. But then I also have budget options. So like if those 3 are the best because they're filtering like above 99.99% of air, like they are like really filtering your air. HEPA filters filter to like 95%. HEPA filter is still great. If you can't afford one of the higher end ones, I have on my blog post some HEPA filters that that likely actually do what they say they do based on the square footage they say they cover and their power for you to look at. So that's a big one. Okay, before we move on to other things for cleaning, sorry, Sarah, I could just talk on this forever. I'm going to stop for a moment. Just like lecturing to an undergrad.
No, it's
all good. Should I keep going, Sarah?
Yeah, keep going for sure. Yeah.
All right. So before we leave the toxins, so I'm just hitting the big ones. There are other toxins that you want to avoid. There are other ones that are linked to cancer. They're all, but I just wanted to, highlight the ones that I'm, really concerned about. So the awful one is PFAS. Okay. So PFAS is a broad name, is perfluorinated chemicals, and there's like 80 of them. There's just tons of them. The list is huge. There's a huge battle going on in DC right now, probably in Parliament in Canada too, about trying to get these chemicals outlawed. And I truly believe that in 20 or 30 years, we will see most of these chemicals, if not all of them, outlawed because they are poisoning our water. They are killing animals. They are, very credibly linked, not just to infertility and miscarriage, but to cancer, to liver problems, to obesity, to problems in children, problems with health during pregnancy and fetal birth weight. So, but right now they're not outlawed. So the number one place to ditch PFAS is to get rid of your nonstick cookware. So PFAS literally makes things nonstick. So it's on your nonstick cookware. It's what makes the eggs not stick. And it's worse if it gets scratched, obviously, but it's just bad all the time. So this is something that, this may not be in your top 1 things. It's easier to stop doing plastic water bottles and switch out your shampoo and your laundry detergent. But as soon as you can, swap out your nonstick cookware. And it doesn't have to be expensive. You can get cast iron, which can be very affordable, be $24 for a great frying pan that will last you, that your great grandchildren will still be using. You can get some nice high quality stainless steel. I have a few different options on my website. You can get high end or low end. If you are a fancy chef, you can get really nice stainless steel with like aluminum on the inside. Copper on the inside. So there's all sorts of options for swapping out, and you just want to start doing that. Unfortunately, PFAS is in a lot of other things. Pretty much all fabrics that are water resistant, waterproof, stain resistant, or stain proof are going to have some amount of PFAS on them. It's another reason furniture is so problematic. Pretty much most of your high-end athletic gear is going to have some level of PFAS in it. They found it in all sorts of awful consumer goods, including like the menstrual panties like the
Oh, okay.
menstrual underwear.
Oh, yeah. There's a huge thing on right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a great blogger, Leah Seghetti of Momavation, and she's like a consumer advocate, and she's using her blog money, and she goes through and she'll test like all of the ketchups or all of the toothpastes or all the organic milks, and then like put in her blog how much PFAS residue is in them. And there are a lot of products that aren't, so like your waterproof jacket or your waterproof tent, they're putting PFAS in there specifically to make it work. That's how they make it work. But organic milk or ketchup, they're not putting it in there, but it's a byproduct of processing, and it's just getting in there because they're not careful enough. And so this is just something that the alarm is being raised now, so things will be better in the future. So if you want to get really OCD about it, you do not have to. You can go to her blog, and we do at this point. We say, okay, this is the best ketchup. This is the one we're going to get. This is the best organic milk for the kids. This is what we're going to get. But you don't have to do that. So I would just say, ditch your nonstick, and after you use your waterproof or athletic gear, wash your hands. You don't have to throw it all away, but wash your hands before you eat, before you touch things. Oh, and I missed with BPA. BPA, sorry, I'm jumping all around, but I don't want you to miss this. BPA is on receipts and any kind of thermal paper that is printed quickly. So the other thing that is common is like airplane tickets, like anything where they print it out right there. So after you handle, if you can say no, thank you for a receipt, great. If you do handle a receipt, throw it in the trash can, or if you need to put it in a file, and then wash your hands. Don't eat after touching your receipts. Also, this one is such a bummer. Jumping back to the PFAS. PFAS, do I have my phone? PFAS is on our touch screens. It's what makes the touch screens so good. So on our phones, on our tablets, on our touchscreen laptops. So wash your hands before you eat, basically, which is a good rule anyway. But if you get as grossed out as I do about the idea of all this, you'll be more motivated to
And
wash
not
your
with a
hands.
soap that contains yeah.
More fragrance.
Right. Okay. Yeah, like I switched over to the cast iron pans, and they're like, you got to season them, and they're a little kind of fun to wash, but like they're amazing, right? So
Yeah.
I have a little small one, and then I have a bigger one.
Yeah, we love them.
And so let's talk about, I think most of us know about the plastic piece about,
Yeah.
I think we should know about not microwaving the plastic. I think we know that some people are still drinking out of the plastic water bottle, but making that switch over to glass or stainless steel. But where else are the plastics? Like you said, yeah, it's hard to even get all this organic stuff, right? And it's still packaged in plastic. So
yeah, I mean, it's tough. So, so food is so let me just like stop for a moment and talk about the difference between what we're talking about here and something else that is very, very important, which is protecting the earth, right? So green living is on the rise at the same time, and plastics are detrimental to the earth, right? So while your shampoo being in a plastic water bottle, I'm not worried about the BPA, getting into your shampoo and getting into your hair so much as I am the fragrance in the shampoo. It is bad for the planet. So it's nice if you can emotionally handle it to start limiting your plastics overall, because it is better. They're just collecting in the Pacific Ocean, making a big mess. For your kitchen, so we talked about that a bit, like switching over, if you can switch your container so your food is sitting in glass. So we have like we've moved, like our dry goods don't sit in the plastic bags they come from. They sit in big mason jars. Some of the worst offenders, like I mentioned before, are the high fat foods. So like if you can get your coconut manna in a glass jar instead of a plastic jar, if you can get your peanut butter or your almond butter in a glass jar, this all does start to cost money. If you can bring your glass jar in and fill it with the almond butter right at the store, even better. If you can bring in your cloth bag for your produce, there's all sorts of different ways to do that. We've done that before, and we've done it where we bring in our mason jars and we do the tear weight and we get them filled. At some point, though, it is a lot of work. So if you are looking for the most important, it's about what you're eating and drinking out of. And sometimes I get emails from people. They're like, okay, Anna, I've eliminated plastic, but I can't figure out how to freeze my meat meals unless they're in a Ziploc, and that's hard. We freeze in Pyrex and mason jars, glass Pyrex and mason jars sometimes, but sometimes, you just let your food cool so it's cold and then put it in the Ziploc and put it in the freezer, because it's more important that you're eating that nutrient dense food and like sticking to, a really healthy diet plan than losing your mind because you can't figure out how to freeze things.
Yeah, like if this is triggering someone to think I've got to go and like go bananas about that, like that's
Yeah.
why I'm like it is a methodical way of saying to yourself, I'm going to eventually be like fully, non-toxic, but and you can do it. I don't know. I just think start making steps now, switching out the
Yeah.
deodorant, looking at the toothpaste, looking at the personal care, all those sort of things, and make it a game of finding products that actually work and are fun and so it's not just like, oh no, throw it all in the garbage. I gotta burn the house down and spend all this money on expensive things, right? That's just not what it is.
And I think I use the phrase non-toxic a lot, but that phrase is like not accurate. We can never be non-toxic. We can never eliminate all the toxins from our bodies. Like there's always going to be exposure. So we have a really nice water filter, and I'll talk about that here at the house, but I still have beverages from places other than my kitchen sink, which means that I'm, getting those toxins. And when I go outside and I can smell the laundry detergent from the neighbor, when your husband goes to work and he can smell, people's cologne, or when I walk through the laundry detergent aisle, like there's no way to completely avoid it. And there's no way to completely filter everything, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. It just means we do the very best we can. And I'm religious. The expression I use is, and then we kiss the rest up to God. Right. So do the best you can, kiss the rest up to God. God, you got to handle the rest of this because I've done my very best. And that's all I can do. Okay. So we talked about plastics. We talked about cookware.
Right.
And just so just like your rice cookers and some of your appliances can be coated with PFAS or nonstick. So like that was the first thing when we realized that our rice cooker, neither my husband or I can cook rice effectively on the stove. We are very good at lots of things, but we're not good at cooking rice.
Boils over. Yep.
It's just terrible. We burn the bottom. So we had to get rid of our rice cooker. We replaced it with an Instant Pot. Instant Pots are fabulous. They are stainless. They were a huge part of my fertility diet, like being able to bulk cook healthy items. So just be aware when you're buying your different appliances, and there are different guides. I have some guides. Leah Seghetti has a number of guides where, like, if you're looking for a blender, you can go and you can Google non-toxic, phthalate-free blender, and you will find a blog post on the internet that will help you make your selection when you're ready to get a new appliance. Obviously, you can't just appliances are expensive, so you don't want to just overhaul that like crazy. Are we missing anything for cookware? Oh, bakeware, use glass. Whenever you can, glass Pyrex dishes, glass casserole dishes for baking. And then there's a brand called Team Far on Amazon that does really nice, high quality stainless like cookie sheets. Because that was one of the things I couldn't find. And I actually used cast iron muffin tins.
Oh, do you? Okay.
Because I couldn't find other non-toxic muffin tin options. So
but even if what if you're putting it in with if you put it in with a paper filter, I guess it's still seeping in there, is it?
Yeah, and the paper filters, if they're bleached, have problems. So then you want the unbleached paper filters, and then what are they lining it with? I mean, it's just And I'm sorry, I feel bad for the people listening. Like, you don't have to get this crazy, right? Like, it's just once you've been doing this for 10 years, you start to get this intense about it, because why not? Right? Like, I've come this far. I need a new muffin tin. I'm going to find a non-toxic one. Right. Also, I blog about this, so I want to be able to find the non-toxic option and write about it. And I have people messaging me saying, have you found this? Unfortunately, I just had someone DM me today, and they were like, Anna, can you recommend me some non-toxic leggings? It's like, no, I can't, because all the non-toxic leggings I found are terrible. Like, you just get holes in them, they fall apart, they don't look good. And all the leggings I like are toxic. So, but we do it the best we can, and then we kiss the rest up to God.
Yeah. What about mattresses?
So, mattresses, yeah. So mattresses are, oh man, what a weedy place. It took us a long time. So first of all, the worst are the memory foam mattresses. So if you have a memory foam mattress, I am very sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but they come with a host of volatile organic chemicals, VOCs, and other problematic materials that are in the type of foam that they use. And then, of course, there's the flame retardants. And memory foam gets worse over time. So as it is heated up, as it is used, it will actually emit more VOCs over time. Memory foam aside, regular standard mattresses, polyurethane foam are the worst when they are purchased. They are emitting VOCs and fire retardants. flame retardants. And while they will continue to do so for their lifetime, it will be less and less and less as they off gas. So if you have your windows open, if you have, if you've got like a 15-year-old mattress, you might have mold in it, but you probably don't have to worry so much about your VOCs and your flame retardants.
We see people with mold too. I know.
Yeah, I mean,
how often should you replace the mattress? Isn't it like every 7 to 8 years? Because we had one that was.
Wait, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we had one that was 15 years old. And I'm like, whoopsies, that's too long.
I mean, I think if you take really, really good care of it and you're doing all the right mattress care. So we've learned now, like things like it needs to be up, it needs to be aired on the bottom. You need to always have something safe and waterproof on the top. Like you can't even with your pillows, you can't lie down with your wet hair on your pillows. And then we're getting into the whole mold thing. Like this is, but.
Yeah. What do you recommend for pillows? Do you have a pillow one you like?
Yeah, so both for mattresses and for pillows, what's the best are organic cotton, organic latex. Springs are fine. For a long time, we were worried about springs and metal springs and EMFs, but there's no science backing that up. So I would pick the metal springs over the toxic foam any day. Although there are options that don't have either. So you're covered if you don't want to do that. So organic latex foam is the most common that you'll find. And there are pillows also that are made with organic latex foam. You can find, the truth is that polyester pillows are mostly fine. So if you have a polyester, just like a cheap polyester pillow with a cotton cover, it's probably fine as long as you don't get mold. It's not great for the environment because of the polyester, and it might not be great for, I don't know, like breathability or, stuff like that. But in terms of emitting toxic VOCs, that one's not going to do it.
I got a special pillow, and this pillow was $200, and it had my name on it. Sarah was embossed right on that pillow.
Did it have the little?
It didn't have that thing, but it was all the organic latex piece. Yeah. And I tried that pillow for 6 months, and I'm telling you, that pillow just gave me the worst neck pain. But I persevered because I'm like, I spent $200 on this pillow, and now I'm like, throw that pillow away. It's in the closet for whoever wants to grab it, and I'm back to a pillow that's been in there for too long. So I need to.
Yeah, that's where I am too. My husband and I both got really nice $200 organic, like sort of molded latex pillows. He loves his. Okay. I used mine for a year until I finally stopped and my neck pain went away.
See, exactly. I was like, why am I on this? And I was sleeping on the corner of the pillow. I'm like, I'm on the corner of this pillow. I'm like, because otherwise it's too high up. I'm like, I need a pillow that's flat. Anyways, I think the pillow thing is a very personalized thing, right?
You can do organic buckwheat. That's okay. I find it too firm. You can find, or what I would do is an organic cotton cover with polyester on the inside. Naturepedic makes those. I have those for my kids. But what I use is an old one that's very thin, and I kind of just roll a little bit under my neck. Yeah. And that's.
I know. I've got the good sheets. I haven't switched over. I haven't switched over the mattress yet. So
there are levels. I have a blog post about mattresses. There are levels. So when we couldn't afford much, when we were trying to conceive and we couldn't afford much, we ditched our toxic mattress and we got an IKEA one, which still has toxic polyurethane foam, but it doesn't have the flame retardants and it doesn't have some of the bad stuff because it's European made. Right. So we bought one of those. We couldn't afford the frame. We just put it on the floor. We were just like sleeping on an IKEA floor mattress for a long time until we were able to afford a Naturepedic. So now we have a Naturepedic and we love it. The kids have Naturepedics. They love it. Naturepedic has a sister company. They're made in the same Gottsgall certified facilities. So that's like Global Organic Latex certified, Global Organic Cotton certified. They're in the same facility. And the other company is Hapsy, and Hapsy is more affordable than Naturepedic. So just as organic and safe. You can't custom make the mattresses like you can with Naturepedic, which is why it's more affordable. Avocado is good. For a while, we were concerned there was a lawsuit against them, but it looks like that's been rolled back. It looks like things are okay. My green mattress is okay. I've got sort of them ranked on my post with what's good. There's a great Canadian company. Why can't I remember it right now? There's a fabulous Canadian company.
Probably where I got that pillow from. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's where I got my pillow that hurt my neck from.
Yeah.
Obasan. That's it. So they make.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they make fabulous non-toxic mattresses also. So, it is a little bit like Sarah was saying, even about like about shampoo or about a mattress, I mean, one of the things that I've tried to do is I've tried to review a number of products to say what works and what doesn't to make it easier. Something like mattress, though, is always going to be personal. So you just, when you're ready to make that investment, I would say the big investments are mattress, air filter, and water filter. Those are like your top costing investments for non-toxic living. And
Yeah.
when you're ready, just make sure you order from a company for the mattresses that's willing to take it back, or that you can go in person. So we went in person to a Naturepedic store to try them
Okay.
out. It would be very hard to manage that otherwise.
So let's talk about those water filters, because that is a slippery slope of
Yeah.
going down a rabbit hole with
Yeah.
the
Well, I mean, I lost like 4 months of my life researching water filters because it was so important and
Yeah.
they were so expensive. And I was like, not first. I stumbled on this one that was $1,000. It was Radiant Life, $400 a year in upgrading it or in the filters. And it's a great filter. I mean, it's like 12 steps. They've got UV lights. They've got this. They've got that. They're like filtering it through diamonds. I don't know. It's on my blog if you want to spend that much money. But it was just filtering out everything, but I couldn't afford that. And I knew my blog readers wouldn't be able to afford that. So I looked and looked and looked, landed on the Pure Effects, which is great because it filters out, most of just about everything, including what I was really worried about were the phthalates, and the VOCs. And there are a lot of water filters out there that will filter out, like the bacteria. So like if you're living in a place that might have polluted water, they'll filter out the bacteria, or they'll filter out, the heavy metals. But you need a special filter that will also get out the endocrine disruptors, basically, and the phthalates, and the VOCs. So I landed on the Pure Effects. I really love it. A lot of people prefer, my husband actually like installed it into the countertop. A lot of people prefer the gravity fed ones. So I recommend the Proper. I really like the Proper. I know other people like the Berkey. But you really want something higher quality than a Brita. A Brita isn't going to take out. So, no, of course, it depends on your water. So you can check your water in two ways. One is you can test your water. You can send it off for testing and you can find out specifically what's in your water and then order a filter specifically based on that. If you're on public water, here we're on public water. So if you're on well water, that's what you would want to do. And maybe your well water will turn out fine. Maybe your well water will be beautiful and pristine and you don't have to worry about it. I've been learning a lot about uranium recently. And
We
apparently
see
a lot
that.
of
Yeah, we see uranium when we do the hair tissue mineral analysis, and we see depending on where they are in the country. People in the Utah area, there's a bunch of people in certain areas of the country where it was coming up with high uranium. We're
that's
like,
coming.
that's your water, and the
Yeah.
fridge filter, that's not cutting it.
Yeah. So I just had my testing done and I am high in uranium.
Okay.
And it's not coming from here because we filter our water. I spend my summer on well water, but my parents had tested it. So we're like they're going to retest it. We're trying to figure out where it's coming from. But anyway, a digression.
Yeah.
But I've been reading more about it. So another, if you're on public water, if you're on city water, like you're here, they will actually publish the contaminants. So you can look up your city water. And on my blog post about water filters, I have a link to go find your city water, what's in it. And then you could theoretically, and there are services, you can pay for a service that will test your water and then recommend a water filter based on what's in it. For me, this was all, I had already lost 4 months of my life researching this. I saw the Pure Effects was going to filter out, like 99% of everything I was concerned about. So I just went with that. The Pure Effects also has an option for if you want to filter out fluoride or not. You can choose. So we do filter out our fluoride. I have never told my mother that though. She's very pro fluoride. My husband and I chose, so fluoride is one of those things that's a little iffy. We chose to continue to use fluoride in our toothpaste, but to not drink it. Fluoride and many other things are added to public water as a public health measure because the government doesn't trust, for good reason, that people will be able to provide basic care for themselves, including go to the dentist, including brush their teeth. And so by putting fluoride in the water, they can help with that. But fluoride is also linked to all sorts of other potential, negative health outcomes like thyroid issues. And so for us, some people choose to avoid fluoride altogether. We decided that we did not want to ingest it, but we were fine putting it on our teeth.
Yeah. We have people avoid it just because of the thyroid piece, and then with the low amation high FSH with the fluoride, and that's the connection we see. So, yeah, and also with the EWG, you can go on there and they have a whole water guide where you can see it's for the U.S. So you can go on and check out the state of your water because there's over like 300 contaminants in your water, from birth control to all sorts of stuff that in people's medication in this water that we're ingesting. We have a Berkey, and the kids are like, I hate that Berkey. I'm only drinking. It's just, they want to be difficult. I'm only
Oh,
drinking tap water. I said, well, let me know when
really?
you start forming breasts on my son.
I
So like there's there's yeah, they're just being difficult. Then when they leave, they want they're the ones talking to their friends about this kind of stuff. But
know, oh man. But yeah,
yeah,
so there's everybody, you flush your medicine down the toilet, that gets recycled back. They can't filter that out at the sewage centers. That comes back. So we've got antibiotics in our water, we've got hormones in our water, we've got all sorts of things. We've got pesticides for runoff in our water. We've got all sorts of nasty stuff in the public water. And what we don't usually have in public water is bacteria. So things that would directly make us ill are the things that they shock the water for. But all the rest of it, they don't filter out the rest of it. So it's
except in certain times. Was it Flint? Like all those different people that had that water exposure thing. There was some of
oh
those
man,
scandals.
yeah, well, right. And the government will say something, so they'll say, oh, your local government, your county,
Boil.
whatever. Oh, by the way, the water's not really good right now. You need to boil it. If you have one of these nice filters, you don't have to worry about that, which is nice. So
Yes.
those, I would say, those are the big investments when you get, that when you have the money. And some people have the money, and if you have the money, go for it. And
Right.
get yourself as low tox as possible, as soon as possible.
And then what about anything to do with like if you like cologne or perfume, anything you're
Oh
recommending?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So traditional cologne and perfume are big no-nos. They have synthetic fragrance. Even like the fancy, expensive ones that also have essential oils, generally also have synthetic fragrance in them. Another problem is that, so we've had greener or more sustainable fragrances for a while, but they aren't disclosing their ingredients. So I have a big problem. This is something we haven't talked about yet today. So I have a big problem with personal care products when they'll say like fragrance with a little asterisk. Oh no, don't worry, it doesn't contain phthalates, but we're still not going to tell you what it is.
Yeah,
And
proprietary. Yeah.
yeah, I have a big problem with that. When someone tells you it's a proprietary secret, that is, excuse my language, that is BS. It is because that ingredient, fragrance, contains 80 different things, and they don't want to put it on their list because they think you'll be shocked and walk away. Which you might, depending on what was in it. Some of the natural fragrances that are phthalate free, that they're not disclosing what's in there, are probably okay. The problem is we don't know because they're not telling us. So I have a hard line myself where I won't use any of those products. If you choose one of those products instead of a conventional one, it's probably still better. We just don't know for sure because they're not telling us their ingredients.
Right.
So for a long time for perfume, I just did essential. I would either make my own. There are a few expensive companies that you can buy that just do a few essential oils, basically in alcohol and water. They're simple fragrances. They smell nice. I find that they don't last too long. You put them on, they're gone in an hour or two. I've also made my own fragrances with essential oils in like a roller bottle with coconut oil or spray with alcohol. Very nice. Again, don't last so long. So there are a couple of brands. One of my favorite clean beauty brands, Beauty Counter, just like last week launched a new perfume. And so they have, what if you look at their label, they have all 80 ingredients. So they have every single one. It's the kind of thing that like 15 years ago I would have freaked out about. But now I can scan and be like, it's okay. It's good. You can check. They're also EWG verified. Like, so all their scents are EWG verified, which means the EWG has like hand gone through their ingredient list and approved it. And these are like, more complicated scents with like high notes, middle notes, bottom notes. I'm not very smart about this stuff. You know what I mean? But they're complicated adult scents, with fully disclosing the ingredients. There are a couple of other companies that are close to doing that. I have a blog post where I've listed a couple of them. Dime Beauty has been sort of doing this, although what Dime Beauty does is they're like, and our special fragrance blend. But if you're on their website, they're like, click here and we'll tell you what's actually in it. And then you click there. And so it's sort of like, they're like, well, we don't really want to tell you, but if you're going to look hard enough, you'll find it. And then they list a whole bunch of stuff. But I guarantee you it's not on their actual bottle, right? It's just if you click through on their website. There was another, brand I was just looking at the other day, and I couldn't find the ingredient list on their website. And it turned out it was in like a blacked out portion of the screen that was like brown on black font, like you could barely read it. but I found it and it was actually okay. But I could see how the way the list is, they would be afraid that people would be afraid that it wasn't clean and wouldn't want to buy it. But you don't have, the good news is you don't have to become as nerdy about ingredient reading as I have become, because we have so many different websites that can help. So the EWG is great. Not only do they rank products, not all products, but most products. And you have to be careful because sometimes they'll have an older version of the product that, rather than a new, and sometimes the ingredients change, but they'll rank products. They also rank individual ingredients. So that's what I like to know. If I have an ingredient I don't know super well, I'm not super comfortable with, I like to plug it into EWG and then read, and they'll talk about areas of concern. And you have to take everything with a grain of salt because sometimes there'll be a product that'll rank. So an EWG verified is the best, then ranking 1, 2 is the best, and then it goes up to 10 being the absolute worst. Sometimes you'll get something that's like a 3 or 4, and you're like, why is this product a 3 or 4? And it'll be because of like a citrus oil, like a citrus essential oil, because citrus essential oils, when you feed them to rats, gives them cancer. So like there are tetragenetic possible effects on them. But so it's one of the nice things about using the EWG is you can go and you can read through the product, the ingredient list, see citrus oil, click on it and be like, oh, I don't care. That's fine. I don't mind if that's in my cleanser. That's not a problem. And it's a way to sort of like bring more products back that otherwise might be. There's also an app called Think Dirty. There's a new one that starts with a Y that I find way too conservative. You can sort of, when you start going down this path, it's easy to get a little unbalanced and to start being like, I have to avoid everything ever. And you don't have to. And I was talking before about how important preservatives are. People get so nervous about preservatives that they want to avoid everything with preservatives, but there are some safer preservatives, like sodium benzoate is a pretty safe preservative. And you don't want your water-based products getting gram-gain bacteria. Like you don't want that to happen. So you want a preservative. Oil-based products, generally, you don't need one. So, and yeah, there are also some older studies that have been disproven, right? And so like the EWG is going to clarify all that. I'm hesitant with some other newer apps that are just like, everything's bad. And then you just wind up with a jar of coconut oil in your bathroom crying into your sink.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this sucks. Yeah, or it's like all the essential, like I like essential oils and stuff too, right? So it is. You want to have a little bit of fun with it. So the perfume I like is Henry Rose, and it's it's EWG verified. Michelle Pfeiffer's one. I also use a Goop one, which kind of smells like a forest, but yeah, it's nice. A different smell, right? It's not that sweet smell, but it doesn't last as long, but it gives you a little sense, so it's nice. Okay, so any final thoughts?
One more? Yeah, do we have time for more?
Okay, one more. Okay, what?
Okay, one more. So I just wanted to talk about sort of like this, like how intense can we go? At some point when we're talking about things like perfume or skincare or makeup, the more intense we go, we lose performance, right? So you can use coconut oil as your cleanser and as your moisturizer, but your skin is probably not going to love it, right? So the more, there are some companies that are like, can we just make skincare with edible certified organic food ingredients? Like, yes, you can. I don't know how well it's going to work. It might be good enough for you. For me, I like higher performing products. Oh, yeah. And the same like colored cosmetics. So most colored cosmetics, even in the clean beauty, non-toxic world, are still going to use synthetic colorants, which hopefully you're avoiding when you eat, right? Hopefully you're not eating Skittles and, red dye, whatever stuff. But sometimes if I want a red lipstick, like if you want a really pigmented lipstick, you get it without fragrance, you get it without parabens, you get it without all that stuff, but it's going to have the synthetic color because that's what's going to give you a red lipstick. There are a couple of brands doing it without the synthetic color, which works if you're good with a more natural look. And the same thing like with skincare, like it's, anyway, it's all a give and take. You don't have to go too crazy.
That was the point. I think with Michelle Pfeiffer's one where she was just listening, I was listening to her on the Goop podcast and she was talking about that, where it was like, there's still some synthetic ingredients in there. So it's not completely natural, because is the natural thing going to perform as well? And also some of the natural stuff, it's not as good. I can't remember the exact analogy, but it's similar to what you said there. Right. And I've used my body lotion not lotion, but it's I use shea butter, like all natural shea butter, just head to toe on that stuff. But I have like for my face care and hair and all that sort of stuff, I I use, I'm not going to be washing my hair in a, like I use
Yeah.
Dr. Bronner's for my soap because I'm intolerant to, I'm like sensitive to a
Yeah.
bunch of soaps. But yeah, so it is it can, have you go down a rabbit hole. As we say, start with some of that fragrance piece. And that, I think that's a really good,
Yeah.
ditching the candles and anything with the fragrance is a really good place to start also with your, with your feminine hygiene. So any final thoughts here, Anna, for us?
No, I know this was probably a lot. Anyone who just listened to this, if this was your first time in this world, please, don't be overwhelmed. Be excited. Be like, I'm going to reclaim my health for me, for my children, for my future. I don't have to do it all today. I can do this in small steps and like literally just by stopping eating and drinking out of plastic and removing the synthetic fragrance, the phthalates from your life. You are going to be doing just a huge world of good. So take it one step at a time. And you can use nice products. You don't have to use coconut oil. and, yeah, so don't be overwhelmed. Just start making the changes and taking your health back.
Exactly. Just start, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. I think it's great resources, and thank you for coming on again.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. It was fun.